I'm interested. I'm interested as to why, if anybody is able to figure out why Ohio State and Notre Dame drew so much less than Michigan, Washington.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Throwdown Thursday edition, in segment one, the ratings are in for the college football playoffs, so we'll discuss those. In segment two, we will give our thoughts on what is being called, again, it's a proposal, 4-4-2-2 plus one proposal. And in segment three, all of these moves and so forth are really starting to set in, so we'll have that conversation. But first, let's get to the ratings. The inaugural 12-team playoff, there were some highlights, there were some lowlights, there was some criticisms, but hey, the networks are excited about it. So ESPN reported that the first year of the college football 12-team playoff was a success. From the network standpoint, the 11 football playoff games averaged 15.6 million viewers from Nielsen. And according to ESPN, viewers consumed nearly 36 billion minutes of live coverage, which is an increase over last season's 7-game slate. The national championship game, however, had a 12% drop from 25 million from the game against Michigan and Washington. So, Will, we finally have made it through the season, good, bad, and indifferent. Any thoughts about the 12-team playoffs and the money and the ratings? Wrap this season up in your opinion, sir.
We've been asking for something for like the last 20 years or something like this. I think at least it's like high school people have been saying man, we should at least have a playoff, or at least if the Rose Bowl champion should be playing, the Orange Bowl champion or all that stuff. But I loved it, man. I thought it was great. I love the arguments of teams that should have gotten in that didn't get in. I think that's part of the actual of the sport and the love of it. Now we also saw Arizona State and all these other teams, but they put out some good games, man. I can't lie. Arizona State, I believe they really gave Texas a run. I mean, no one really expected that. And then we got the champion that we kind of were like, okay, that's going to happen. It was good. I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, we miss a lot of the obscure bowls that we got, and things that we got cool stuff and the swag bags and things like that. Because now these kids get paid real money now. But
I don't need your PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need your PlayStation. We don't need your gift cards from Taco Bell. So everything is good. But yeah, I would like to see expand. I guess. Expand with the model, expand with the who gets the buys. I know people are upset that Arizona's had a buy and Texas had to play, but that's how the NBA, that's how the NFL plays, right? I mean, there's teams like Minnesota who had to play on the road and they had a way great record. That's just how it is. Win and win what you got to do. But I really enjoyed it. I hope they can expand it and get bigger. And find that fine tune the things that they need to really hit the points that really need. But I think I enjoyed it. And that's really, I enjoyed it.
All right, Robert, we've covered this a long time. And at the beginning of the season, I think it's true now. You can't lose to a directional school and win a national championship. Any thoughts about all of this, including the ratings? Where does Robert stand at the end of this first year of 12-team playoff?
I mean, for the most part, it was entertaining. I think that the SEC for all of its talk, they didn't really deliver, and now you've had the Big Ten win it 2 years in a row. So they're I mean, maybe that balance of power shifts a little bit. I don't know. But I mean, it was entertaining to watch. It was a lot of fun. For the most part, the games were pretty good. There were some early the early games were not that first round. Those were not great games, but for the most part, the games were pretty good. They were entertaining. I'm interested. I'm interested as to why, if anybody is able to figure out why Ohio State and Notre Dame drew so much less than Michigan, Washington. I think that's interesting because you don't at least, and none of us have this context because none of us are in the Pacific Northwest. Doesn't seem like Washington would draw that many eyes, but who knows? I'd be interested to know that, and going forward, let's see what develops because they're going to mess with it. They can't just leave it alone for 5 years and say, let's see what it looks like. No, we're messing with this like next year.
Well, one of the questions that I have is the days of the week, because part of these games competed against the NFL, and they did a Thursday, Friday format. They did the traditional New Year's Day format, and I don't know if that had anything to do with it in terms of the days of the week. I would stay away from the NFL if I was them. I'd have it on a Wednesday. I just don't want to touch anything the NFL is doing. And in terms of the Ohio State Notre Dame game, I didn't do the homework, sir, but I'm thinking many people in the South did not have a high level of interest because of the lack of Southeastern Conference team. I don't know. Will, as we close this segment, what's one big takeaway you would have or piece of advice you would give as they move forward?
Force teams to play real schedules. Like don't allow if you're not part of a conference. I'm not just picking on Notre Dame, but I also kind of am. If you're gonna play in the playoff, you need to have a better schedule. You can't play and beat Cupcakes and Sisters of the Poors and expect to get into with 13 wins and maybe like 4 or 5 tough games and expect you to get in the playoff. That's not how it's going to work. So you're really going to have to play real teams. And unfortunately, if you're one of those smaller teams that are that are playing really well, it's going to be hard to schedule good teams because they don't want to play it either because they don't want to lose. So you do your best to schedule your actual teams that you play are going to the wins boost you into the playoffs, not just say, oh, well, they beat, Arkansas State or, whoever. No disrespect, but you have to play somebody to get into the playoffs.
And definitely don't lose to directional schools.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, fans, in segment 2, we're going to introduce a proposed model, and our panel will chop it up and see if we like it. We'll be right back on the iCoaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project and author of Finding the Balance, my personal journey to academic and athletic success. This book is your key to unlocking the secrets of being a successful student athlete. Drawing from my 30-year career as a teacher and coach, this instructional guide offers a unique perspective on achieving success in both academics and athletics. With over 15 personal stories and insightful antidotes, Finding the Balance is a must-read for student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators. Visit www.ckasaveproject.org to get your copy and start finding the balance today. Welcome back to the iCoaches Podcast in segment 2. We're going to give our thoughts on the proposed 4-4-2-2-1-1 proposed model. So the SEC and the Big Ten are scheduled to hold a second joint meeting of their ADs next month, where conference leaders are expected to deeply explore, folks, air quotes, the future of the college football playoff format, according to media reports. And yes, Robert, they can't just leave well enough alone. There's a discussion already, Will, of a 14-team model that designates 4 automatic qualifiers to the SEC and the Big Ten, 2 to the ACC and the Big 12, 1 to the best Group of 5 champion, and 1 at-large bid, which is more likely than not intended for Notre Dame if it ranks inside the top 14. Again, more likely than not. Also, from media reports, discussions are expected to go beyond the regular season, with the possibility of what officials describe as a overhauled postseason for those programs not advancing to the CFP. So, Will, I think they're trying to address the bowl situation. Administrators are exploring ways to arrange more matchups that pair teams from the two leagues as opposed to their current bowl agreements and bowl pairings, because the bowls agreements, Robert, expire after next season. All of this is an effort to generate, wait for it, untapped revenue at a time when schools are bracing to spend more than $20 million annually in athlete revenue sharing based on the House settlement. Robert, you're our administrator. This proposal has come across your desk. What are you thinking about this proposal?
I'm going to say, first of all, I understand exactly where the SEC and Big Ten are coming from, okay, because they are the big brothers in this situation, and they're going to leverage that for all it's worth. That being said, I don't like automatic qualifiers. I don't like them. I don't like them. Just because you just because you get 4 teams doesn't mean your conference has 4 teams that should be in the playoff. Same with the ACC. I mean, we argued back and forth about them. They got Clemson and SMU in. In the end, should both of them have been in? I don't know. Maybe not. Should the Big 12 have had 2 teams in? Who else would you have picked? You have to have that one out there for Notre Dame, because now Notre Dame, this year got $32 million or something like that from making the championship game. I just think they're screwing around with it, and they don't even know what they really have yet. I guess I understand wanting to redo the bowl situation, but at the same time, we're going to a place where you've got the Premier League. I mean, basically what we're looking at is a relegation system, just like the English soccer leagues. You've got the Premier League, and you've got League One, League Two, League Three. That's what we're looking at. And we're going to get there sooner or later, probably sooner, but we'll see.
All right, Cotton Man. This model came across your desk. What are you thinking?
I mean, like Robert says, I mean, it'd be hard to say, 4th best team automatically gets in. I mean, I've been watching Ole Miss the whole season, and they should not be in. I mean, that should not be the 4th team in. And again, this is such a new territory for them. And I'm not going to I'm not going to say the same thing that Robert said, because I think it was correct. This can't be because of the bowl. It can't be the bowls. I mean, the bowls will entice themselves. I mean, people know where the eyes go. You know what I'm saying? So when they do the agreements and they reconstruct it, I guess, have the real conversations again and about the bowls and how they want to redo them. It doesn't matter based on 14 teams, or what their format is. They're going to go as who's watching, what is going on. If 18 million people are watching the FedEx Bowl, we're going to put more money in that one. So I think they need to focus on more so just see what's going on, see how it works, find the deficiencies in the product now, rather than trying to change and create the deficiencies. Because I know if you're one of those teams in those 1+1, and you've had a great season, you have 1 loss, and you're looking at another SC team that may have lost 2 or 3 games, like Alabama. Are you going to be in? Are you not? You know what I'm saying? So I think they should just look. Yeah, you're probably not. But you should definitely just let what you have now. Let it run for like 5 years. See how it goes. Where the deficiencies are. Where the things that work, and build on those things that work. I think they're just tinkering for no reason, and they're catering to the marketing teams, and they're like, well, we just because we were a little down, this was new. Like now that we're up and we can really get it out there and people can understand what's going on, we can build off that. But I'm with Robert. I think you're messing with something that you don't even really know yet. And it's kind of, you can't really say yet good, good or bad, but I wouldn't have messed with it for a little bit.
Well, and you're forcing the non-power 4 schools to be perfect. That's what you're doing. You are forcing the non-power. Boise State has to be perfect. Pick some Liberty or Coastal Carolina or
Colorado.
Northern
the Colorado
Illinois,
teams.
Anybody else who's been good these past few years. You're forcing them to be perfect. The only way they'll be considered is if they're 13-0. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only way they'll even be considered. And then they still might not be within the top 14. And if they're not within that top 14, they could be 13-0 and they're not going.
Right.
So the biggest problem I had was the automatic seeding. I'm a winner guy. So if you win your conference, I got no problem with you being in. And if it was an upset, you shouldn't have lost. That's what we say to basketball. Quit your complaining. Okay, I'm sorry. The rules have been set. You're a one-bid league, and if you win your conference championship in the regular season and you lose in your tournament, you knew the rules, I knew the rules, and if they didn't want to hit shots that day, good, bad, who cares? So there's your 5, group of 5, and the 4 power 4s or whatever. Okay. So then, with that being said, in our current system, you've got 7 slots left, and they're trying to cook the books to make sure their teams could be one of the 7. So that's where I'm like, well, how do you want to do this thing? Do you want to have top whatever? Do you want to? And you can't be perfect. Like JMU's team a couple of years ago would have deserved anything, but they had the transition issue and they weren't going to get a waiver or something like that. But that team, I'd want to see them compared to the 500 Ole Miss team that Will mentioned, and that's what we're going to run into as we talk basketball, as you heard on Wednesday's show. So with that being said, Robert, how would you book the 12 teams or the 14 teams in the first place? Conference champions take care of 5, so now we're looking at 7 to 9 teams left. How would those 7 to 9 teams be selected in your eyes?
I'm okay with there being 7 to 9 people that you use some kind of, use the net or whatever it is that they use. If you want to rank them out that way, that's fine. I'm cool with that. If you want conference champions in plus the highest ranked group of 5 automatically, yeah, I'm good with that. I don't know how else you do it, because I think if you just say, and most of the time this isn't going to happen, but I'll tell you what's going to happen is at some point you're going to have a 4th place SEC or Big Ten team that has 4 losses and is ranked like 22nd, but they're still going to get in because they're in 4th place in the conference. That's
Ole Miss. It'll be Ole Miss. It'll be Ole Miss.
It'll be Ole Miss, or it'll be the 4th place team. More likely, it'll be the 4th place team in the Big Ten, right? Because I loved Indiana's run this year. Do I see them replicating that? No. I mean, could they? Sure. I mean, but we talk all the time, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and who's the 4th? Some random team,
Yeah, pretty much. Unfortunately, it won't be the team down the street from Will and I, but that's another story.
Rats. Don't say that. For
Mike Oregon. King. Did we say Oregon? Because they're here.
Oregon would be in there. Oregon being there.
Okay. Okay. But I still think that the 4th place team from the Big Ten is not that great.
Yeah. All right. So
and again, just to revisit a theme that we have covered many times, Oregon in the Big Ten, what are we doing? What are we doing?
That's the conference game between USC and Rutgers in basketball. Still is like, what are we doing, man?
Oh, geez.
What are we doing? All right. So, fans, when we get back in segment 3, it's really starting to become real from a dollars and cents perspective. We're going to talk about several schools and how they're anticipating dealing with the upcoming summer changes. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Safe Project, with a question for you. Are you passionate about supporting student athletes? If so, then become an official member of the CKA Safe Project and make a difference today. With your membership, you'll be able to help us provide essential academic and athletic support to underserved communities nationwide. Join us in empowering student athletes to achieve their full potential, both on and off the field. Together, we can build a brighter future through education and sports. Visit ckasafeproject.org and choose your membership level now. $25 is a bronze level membership, $50 is a silver level membership, and $100 is a gold level membership. Be a part of the change. Become a member of the CKA Safe Project today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. In segment 3, reality is starting to set in. Let's start off with North Dakota State. North Dakota State's athletic director, Matt Larson, said he is 99.9% sure that the North Dakota State Bison will not opt in to the post-house revenue sharing model, explaining that if they do, the Bison would likely have to cut about 65 student athletes. To paraphrase, for a mid-major school, that's a real enrollment impact. That's 65 kids who are paying tuition in some way, shape, or form. And for a lot of those schools, they need those tuition payments. Larson also questions how some schools will be able to operate spring football with 105 players, taking into account graduation, portal departures, and injuries. So, Robert, you've seen the little basic notes on New Mexico State. Their AD is talking truth, man. He's not lying. What are your thoughts on the real implications of the House settlement to everybody else not making goo gobs of money?
Well, my first, my initial reaction is you can't have spring football with 65 players. You can't figure something out. I don't that doesn't make any sense to me. But whatever, right? What does make sense to me is that what North Dakota State is saying is that we've got a good enough situation up here with whatever current setup we have that what we're doing is more money for us than the House settlement money. And it sounds like North Dakota is probably about the same, right? Because and you got to remember the schools up there in Big Sky Country, all of the FCS schools, I mean, they don't have, aside from Boise, there aren't any FBS schools up there. That's the big football. That's it. And so, that kind of makes sense to me that they're going to have to study that a little bit more closely, because they may have a better setup, since North Dakota State and North Dakota are the big schools in the state. That makes sense to me that they're going to have to reevaluate that. The other piece of that is that both of those schools, at least North Dakota State, have hockey, which is something else that you got to throw in there. So, I think that you can't just say, okay, here's a settlement, everybody's got to take it. I think that they're doing right by their school, certainly, by evaluating what is this going to do for us.
Okay, so now we're going to go across the country to New York City, look at here, and St. John's. So St. John's will reseat all its men's basketball season ticket holders this offseason using a priority point system based on the number of consecutive years of being a season ticket holder, contributions to the athletic department and to the university, consecutive years of charitable giving to the school, and contributions to NIL opportunities for St. John's student athletes. The Red Storm's AD Ed Cole said in a letter to season ticket holders, college athletics is changing every day at a rapid rate, and we are doing everything we can to keep up with the changes. With the proposed House settlement and the anticipated decisions to be made regarding revenue sharing, we need to do everything we can to financially compete in this new era of college athletics. He also says potential upgrades to the Carnesecca Arena. He'd like to see more additional seating on both ends. And Will, as a St. John's fan and alum, what are you thinking about this? Because at the end of the day, who pays for all of this? John Q alumni. And they
Yeah.
might not want to pay anymore. What are you thinking?
Well, one thing I'll change is remember, coach, the alums from St. John's, those guys are judges, Wall Street guys, magnates, the captains of industries. These are the guys that hold St. John's and say, this is where I want to go. And what they've seen as if we invest into players, NIL and otherwise, we can win. Because we're seeing that now because we paid a coach that we actually wanted to come here that's a good coach. We paid for players to come here that are good, not these not these kids aren't good, but not these secondary and third and tertiary kind of players. They're first in the Big East. They're ranked in the first time in I could think maybe like a decade. I mean, those kind of things get people excited. Those people with the pockets who are gonna, it's not gonna. They don't care about that. The receipt, man. Look, that's what they look for. Oh, you gave 100K. I'm gonna give 200. Don't worry about that. These dudes throw money away. They're not looking at John Q alum. They're looking at Prince William alum. Those who make millions and millions and millions. It's just something that Ed Cole is kind of being upfront about it. He's like, hey, look, we got rich alumni. We're not going to press everybody up because trust me, I get the letters and I toss them in the trash. You know what I'm saying? I paid y'all. I already got the degree. It's over. But it also speaks to other teams. Like, hey, you don't, all you have to do is get creative, find your alumni who have money, position them in a way that says this is how we invest back into school. Most of them would do it. And maybe I'm biased what I'm saying, but if you're tired of your team and middling for decades and if you're the Seton Halls in the world and you're and obviously now the Georgetowns in the world and teams like that, if you want to get better, look at St. John's formula, try and copy it and try and put it out as you can, because another thing that what does is creates more value for St. John's, because St. John's now remains a ranked team moving on the next 5-10 years. That becomes attractive. That's attractive to the Big 12. That's attractive to ACC or whoever's going to be out there saying, hey, we want to poach this team. So it helps for everybody. So I would say just to other teams, get creative with it. Go to alumni, find different ways to do things. Priority points. I mean, I'm not saying that's the best solution, but it's different. You're trying different ways to create a revenue. And I mean, St. John's is showing that if you spend money, you're going to win. So I think that's the model. I think other teams are going to follow it.
Okay. All right. So Mitch Daniels Jr. We're going to introduce you to Mitch Daniels Jr. He is a former American academic administrator, businessman, author, and he's a retired politician. He's also the former governor of Indiana and a former president of Purdue University. So we want to make sure you know who he is. And he recently argued that in the NIL era, it's time to look at the tax exemption of the NCAA that members enjoy because these athletic activities further their educational pursuits, and that exemption is no longer matching reality. With players' average salary in the tens of thousands, star players and coaches' salary often in the millions, and television contracts in the billions, this is no longer amateur sports. He goes on to say that the argument that athletic success boosts either enrollment or non-athletic fundraising has never been persuasively demonstrated, and it was refuted based on previous educational studies. They have entered into a business that is unrelated to the purpose of education. Robert, you are our administrator. I shared with you the comments so you had a chance to look at them. What are our thoughts on the retired businessman sitting at home on the porch, looking at it, saying, "Here's what I think," and then leaving the table? What do you think, sir?
It's kind of the epitome of somebody who is admiring a problem without an actual solution for it. I agree with him 100%. You know, the fact that we're talking about the Ohio State University spending $20 million on their to pay their football players, those don't necessarily go together. But what we don't have is we don't have any conversation about putting regulations on the transfer portal, maintaining expectations of academic progress. You know, we don't have any conversations about that. And until we do, I mean, basically what we're talking about is we're talking about another tier of professional sports.
Well, you are in management. You see with the comments of, again, retired. He's no longer the president. He's no longer this. I had a chance to hang out at Hood College with former President Dr. Volpe, and he was very candid in what he thought. And I love the candidness of the retired folk. What do you think about the comments?
Again, it's easy to stand on the shoulders of giants when Robert is giving great, commentary. I love it. But I'll take it another step further, man. He's not creating a solution until he's paid for it. So he can definitely say, this is your problem, this is your problem, this is your problem. And you're going to have guys like us who will say, well, you got no solutions. He's like, yeah, you can't afford my solution just yet. You can't afford it. Because if you guys really want it, I'm going to go get it. Because there's nothing that he's saying. He's just showing that the transition. He's not saying there's nothing wrong with it. He's just like, okay, well, this is the problem, and we got to look at it different. And if you want my solution, it's going to cost you a little bit. And I mean, shoot, like you said, the dude is smart. I mean, don't put your feet in the pond, don't put your hat in the ring. Let them come to you. Because then when they come to you, then you can give them a price and say, okay, well, you came to me. This is the price. Because everybody you're telling people, if you're putting $20 million into your football team and program, you got the little millions of dollars for me. I think it's just a pitch. I think it's something for him, just another guy to get his hand in the pot, just trying to get it. Like you said, like Robert, with no solution. No real solution, because even if you pay him, who even to say his solution is going to work? It's going to be like, oh, well, we ain't going to do that. Here, wasted our $5 million on that guy. Whatever.
Who is going to ask for the solution? Who wants the solution? The NCAA is not going to ask for it. They're not even in the CFP thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they're happy with it being like a mafia mob style kind of thing. Like, hey, man, the big dog is going to do his thing, and we're going to make deals with the little guys and this like that. And I think they like that. They're like, that's how we've been rolling. So they're like, let's just keep doing it.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
every now and again.
They throw the small schools a little bit of money now and then when they go play. The guarantee games. Yeah. That's it.
But then now they have one more thing. It's like, oh well, now look, Arizona State got in. Look, you guys can compete. This is not unfair. SMU got in. Come on, it's a fair deal. They know what it is.
I would be really interested to see how many. I mean, there's got to be somebody doing this research, but I'd be really interested to see how many of these schools that play guarantee games. Like New Mexico State goes to Alabama, for example. Okay. How many of New Mexico State's best players wind up at the school at which they played the guarantee game? How many, New Mexico State's best 3 players enter the portal, 2 of them wind up at Alabama. I'd be interested to see
right.
that. So
Well,
Right.
Will experienced that a little bit when he was in high school because there was a lot of conversations with private schools that we scrimmaged about, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? So,
Yeah,
Robert, you're
it was.
100% right
Yeah,
that
for sure.
the handshake line is where the deals are made. But the thing I have a question about, and there was a reason why we talked about North Dakota State because they're talking about moving to FBS if they haven't already done so. And St. John's doesn't have football. So basketball is king. The Big East was the best basketball conference in the 70s and 80s, and football killed it. And whatever this thing is now with Creighton in it, they're named the Big East, but it's not the Big East. And there's no denying North Dakota State football is some real good football. But look at all the things that they have to do to stay relevant. And then it does trickle down to Division II, Division III, and NIL, and we've never been mad at NIL, but there's no guardrails, and any organization will tell you you got to have some structures, some boundaries, some accountability measures. So with that, any final thoughts, Robert, on how to create some accountability measures, or do we need Congress involved?
Well, good luck getting Congress to do anything. Yeah. Nothing will happen. There will be no guardrails. There will be no conversations. There will be nothing until the SEC and Big Ten decide that it's time for those conversations.
Will, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, yeah, like Robert says, I mean, if you're not hearing that the SEC is having any comments about what's going on, the revenue sharing, any sort of real entity is actually jumping into the ring and actually having conversations about that. It's just a lot of talk, but gets people, makes good news for us in podcast.
It gives us stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Gives us stuff to talk about. All right, my final comments, and again, free advice, but if you want real advice, come hire the CKA Save Project. The Articles of Confederation did not work for a very simple reason. When you put states first and country second, doesn't work. But when you put the whole unit together, as the late great Wellington Mara showed the NFL, everybody can eat. So until you have some type of situation where everybody can eat, it's only going to be a few, and you're going to continue to have these problems. But again, we're happy to help, and feel free to contact us on the web at ckasaveproject.org. So on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams, saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.